Thanks for having me, Lynn. I think, or Emily, Lynn has already mentioned the purpose of President Xi's trip, probably the railway link, the rare earth minerals, and maybe just a reciprocal visit. It's because China is worried that Vietnam is being courted closely by the United States. So China has to build closer ties with Vietnam. It already has a lot of closer ties with Vietnam in terms of trade. They have differences in terms of maritime border, but there's also a lot of joint and common interests between China and Vietnam. So I suppose that the visit of President Xi is to make sure that Vietnam does not tilt too much on the side of the United States. But that's difficult because the United States is also an important trade partner of Vietnam, because Vietnam aspires to become an upper middle income country. And Vietnam's prime minister, in fact, visited Silicon Valley recently, and Vietnam is very clear that it wants to bring in U.S. investments. So Vietnam is trying to hedge between China, its neighbor, and the United States as its leading trade partner. Emily.
Would you gauge the success for China with the rail connections and the improved connections there, given that China has been working really hard on its Belt and Road Initiative? This could be considered part of that.
Yes, and it makes sense if this pushes through. That link between Haiphong and Kunming makes sense because northern Vietnam and southern China have been closely linked in terms of the supply chain. But there's probably another dimension to President Xi's visit to Vietnam, which is that President Trump, in case President Trump wins the election next year, you know what happened when Trump was the president. A lot of Chinese businesses went to Vietnam in order to evade the U.S. sanctions. So maybe that is not spoken outrightly, but that's probably at the back end of the agenda, is that what happens when Trump wins the presidency and what happens to Chinese exports to the United States. So maybe that's in the part of the discussion as well.